Kia ora, Lucy.
Kia ora, Mandy.
It is wonderful to meet you.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, thank you very much for agreeing to come on. I think we've had a couple of aborted attempts, so here we are finally,
Yeah,
which is nice.
yeah, it's great.
So you were born in the UK and came out to New Zealand early 2000s. So
Yes,
you've been here
correct.
for nearly 25 years.
Yeah, yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about your childhood in England and then why you came out to New Zealand?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in England in a little sort of village, actually, sort of outside the town of Bath. I don't know if you're familiar with that
Yeah,
place.
I've been there.
So it was very sort of beautiful and idyllic, and I was very lucky to have grown up there. And we had a great big garden. Used to spend a lot of time in the garden, kind of daydreaming under trees and crawling around in hedges and um, generally sort of living in my imagination, I think, probably. Yeah, I've got two brothers, one of whom lives in the States and the other of whom lives in the UK, and wonderful parents who are very different from one another. My mother is a very creative sort of soul, and my father is was a sort of computer nerd. So I'm not quite sure how they managed to make the marriage work, which eventually didn't, but while it did, it was an interesting place to grow up. I think they were both very sort of intellectual, and so there was a lot of interesting conversation that always went on around the table in the house and sort of everywhere about. And
Mm.
yeah, we didn't have lots of money or anything like that, but there was a lot of ideas and there were always books. We didn't have a telly for the longest time. I think we were about 8 or 9 when we finally got one, and then it was black and white. And so I think the emphasis was always on kind of making things, and play came from within rather than from without. We didn't have a lot of toys and things like that, and we were sort of encouraged to make our own toys and things.
Mm.
Um, it was probably quite an unusual upbringing, I would say, compared to most people, but it wasn't bad. I think it was kind of interesting, and has probably added to my
Yeah,
diversity of interests that I now have as an adult.
that's right. And I imagine that being able to sort of explore your imagination is, you can see that in your work now, that
Yeah.
that world that you've created in your mind has sort of come through into your practice.
Definitely, definitely. And I think, my mum was a literature. She did sort of English literature and taught English literature for a long time. And so we always had amazing books around the house. And she read to us a lot. And we were very, very fortunate to have been exposed to all the kind of wonderful children's authors, but she was also very interested in art. So we had beautiful illustrations around, and the kind of Arthur Rackham and those sorts of people, and the kind of fables and tales that kind of make up the narrative of childhood. And I think because I was quite a sort of dreamy, imaginative kind of person, I think they were never really that separate from my reality,
Yeah,
and that's obviously come into my work now as this kind of overlay of your kind of imaginary self and your combined with the realities of your daily life. And
yes, yeah,
I
you
think I
can so
lived it
see
in it.
that.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? How far back it actually goes.
I think it does, and I think those narratives that you form in childhood are unshakable. And I think they're sort of fundamental to who you become as an adult, and I think they're sort of obviously you have the narratives of your kind of health and well-being and around relationships and all those sort of psychology building narratives. But I think on the other side, you have the kind of narratives of hope and joy and dreams. And I think those are just as unshakable, but they're not perhaps talked about as much as the
Yeah,
ones that then sort of go on to affect your daily functioning.
that's right. It's so true.